Hello and welcome to the Walk-Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by Adam Mack. It is the Mailbag portion of the Walk-Off show. This is where we comb through all your comments and questions from the prior week and either answer or, present your comment.
Yeah.
We normally do this on Tuesday. I know it's Wednesday. We're a day late, but figured better late than never. You can, of course, get a hold of us by dropping comments on our YouTube page. You can also message us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast, on TikTok, The Walk Off Podcast. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So first one comes from David. Says the sound is better! Exclamation point. So
we're doing it. We're figuring it out.
We're winning. Look at us go.
It's so funny. We just interviewed
God.
See, I'm gonna throw you under the bus.
You
here.
are. I know. Bring it on.
We just interviewed the head of the mental performance department with the Toronto Blue Jays, Robert DiBernardo. Great interview, by the way, and that will be up shortly on our full conversations pull down on our YouTube page and, of course, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But Adam had rebooted his computer and done some things and had changed his setting from microphone to the internal speaker. So, yeah, we're still working on sound, guys. We find ways, whether it's Adam or myself, to take a step back for every step forward. But
absolutely,
we appreciate that you're noticing we're slowly getting it together.
On the ball, absolutely. All right, next one comes from Marcus G. Says, beards are on point, boys. Keep up the great work. So, yes, my mustache is gone. The beard is back.
We're good at covering up our face, bud.
We sure are.
I never know how to take a beard compliment, It's like, nice job covering up what you had going on before.
Exactly. I guess good news too. We're allowed to have. My biggest problem with having a beard for the last 2 years has just been mask beard.
Oh, it's
right?
The worst.
It's the worst. But at least in Alberta, seems like all the COVID restrictions are on their way out the door. So we might
March
not even
1st.
be wearing masks as of March 1st
Yeah.
if things continue to head this way. So
wild.
Looking forward to it. All right, next one comes from Scott McCutcheon. Last episode, we were kind of, I don't even know how we got on this topic, but we were debating the difference between a juggernaut and a behemoth.
Right.
And Scott chimed in on the comments here. A juggernaut is a behemoth that can't be stopped. So maybe a juggernaut is a behemoth in good armor, he says. And what about a leviathan? These are some big words. I think a leviathan is sea-based, water-based version? I don't know. Anyways, thanks for the fun. Let's hop into some serious comments, though. This one comes from Sam S., who wants to point out that Derek Jeter also made a lot of errors early on in his career. And reminds us that Bichette just finished his first full season. So relax.
It is true.
I did pull up the stats for Derek Jeter. It's not really going to prove anything. I think just the big takeaway is that shortstop is a high error position regardless. They make more errors than a second baseman, kind of no matter how long they've been in the league.
And they tend to positionally get better with time. Yeah. Unfortunately, shortstops develop a little bit slower, and you just kind of need to stick with it. We've had this talk a million times, but I'm kind of with, was it, who said
this
that
was
one?
From Sam.
From Sam? I got to agree with Sam, Yeah. Give Bo a chance here.
Yeah, my worries were never with Bo Bichette's glove anyways. It was only ever with his arm, and I think that just as he continues to grow and mature, the arm strength will get better, and it'll be
good. He kind of proved last year his arm is fine. He did make a substantial amount of errors last year. However, I don't think his arm was the downfall.
Look, he's still a child for all intents and purposes, right? He's not Carlos Correa, so
yeah, he doesn't turn 24 for another few months.
So, I mean, the harder the more oomph, and that's the technical term, the more oomph that you have to put behind your throw, the more you're grunting it the more it opens up that window for a drop in accuracy, right? So it just as he continues
Overthrowing.
as he continues to mature and put more muscle on, that throw from deep in the hole at shortstop, instead of having to put 100% mustard on it and maybe it's wild, he'll be able to throw it just as fast, 80%, and we'll have an increase.
80% mustard.
So 80%
Yes.
mustard. It's getting very technical this morning here. Man, at least my
Heavy
words
condiment talk here on the walk-off, yeah.
at least my words were a little bit more on point when we were talking with the psychologist earlier this morning.
Yeah, you were nailing it.
I did not mention any condiments during that interview, so
No, he was complimenting you on how well you were following up on the questions, even if you didn't have your microphone on.
I'm never gonna hear the end of that. That's all right. Ah, man. I was just thinking too, just before we went live here for the mailbag. You mentioned to me that like it sounded like a vacuum cleaner was like cutting in and out. It's because I kept muting and unmuting my microphone. So every time I would unmute it, you would hear the built-in fan in my laptop, and that's probably what it was. So, anyways, I'm sure that interview is going to be unlistening toable. But another great word I butchered.
I hope not.
Let's move on to the next one here. This one comes from Dulcimerist. I remember back in the late 1980s.
Dolce!
Everyone was saying to buy up a bunch of Barry Bonds rookie cards because he was definitely going to get into the Hall of Fame. He was supposed to be the next huge superstar, and he was, even before steroids. Now, we've talked about Barry Bonds ad nauseum, but I did just want to do one comparison. First 9 years in baseball of Barry Bonds to Mike Trout's first 9 years in baseball. Now, I do want to clarify. Mike Trout has been in the league for 11 seasons now. Reason I only took the first 9-year sample is because year number 10 was the COVID season, so only 60 games that season. And then last year with the season-ending injury, he only played 34 games. So the number of games each team or each guy would have played would have really skewed things if we looked at Barry Bonds' first 11 years. But through the first 9 years, Barry Bonds in 1,280 games hit 259 home runs, 760 RBIs, had an average of 285, on-base percentage 394, and a slugging percentage of 537. Mike Trout threw 1,200 games, so 80 fewer games because he played a short rookie season, only 40 games in his rookie season. More home runs than Barry Bonds, 285 to 259. 750 RBIs, so only 8 fewer than Barry Bonds. Batting average 305, so 20 points higher than Barry Bonds through his first 1,200 games. On base percentage 419, so again 25 points higher than Barry Bonds, and a slugging percentage 581, so 50 points higher than Barry Bonds through his first 1,200 games. So,
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Mike Trout is the real deal. I really, really hope he's able to bounce
that
back
he's
and
healthy
be healthy
this year.
the rest of the way. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and that is one thing. I think baseball is even forgetting a little bit how incredible and elite of a talent Mike Trout is because of the 2020 season, because he missed so much time last year, and because so many of these young guys like Acuna Jr. and Juan Soto and Vladdy Guerrero and Tatis Jr. have taken such huge strides forward, and the spotlight has been on them, and deservedly so. However, let's not forget that Mike Trout is one of the greatest.
Yeah, one of the greatest to ever play the game, and enjoy it while you can, I suppose.
What is he, 29 or 30? He's still got years in him for sure.
Yeah, he's 29, so he's got
29.
a lot of years left. Hopefully, too. I mean, maybe it takes expanded playoffs to do it, but hopefully the Angels can start making the playoffs and we can start seeing
Trout and
Mike Trout
Ohtani,
play.
and
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
in games that matter,
games that matter. All right. So this one comes from.
Before you move on,
No.
do you feel like the Angels not making the playoffs? This is not on Mike Trout, right?
No, it's not at all. I mean, baseball's a weird sport because it is so individual, but it's also not individual. Like, it's weird. Like, Tom Brady just retired, so obviously he's a perfect example, right? But he's a guy who just makes everyone better around him, and he has that ability to be a difference maker, right? Like,
Raise the floor of everybody.
can just put the team on his back and go, no, we're gonna win. Like, just impacts every single play so much as the quarterback position does in football. Whereas in baseball, like, Mike Trout can have 0 errors all season long, but he can't affect how his pitchers are giving up hits to other parts of the field, right? He only gets 1 at bat every 9. Like, it's just, he can only do so much. He could hit 1,000. The team could still miss the playoffs.
And it's interesting to see how fans do put such a weighted value on the guys who do make the playoffs. And of course they should, because it does show you what a guy is like when the chips are down. But also the fact that Trout hasn't had that opportunity, it gets tiresome to hear that is part of his problem, is the lack of playoffs. It's like, this isn't a Mike Trout problem. This is a Los Angeles Angels front office problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, absolutely. All right, so let's now pivot from Mike Trout to our Discord. Veracity says, Kevin Smith, believe it or not, is in Keith Law's top 100 prospect list. Some folks still are very high on Smith. Do we sell him while he is still high? There's too many highs in that sentence for me to.
Too many highs in that sentence, Veracity, but it's an interesting thought. Kevin Smith may have the most value that he's going to have as a prospect. I guess it would depend on the return. It depends where he would fit into a trade, and it would depend on the other organization and where they view him. And that's the thing with prospects, right? Is that it really is organization to organization as to where they put the value on a guy like that. Kevin Smith is a guy who plays third base. He's got some experience at shortstop. He struggled heavily in 2019 and 2020 and found it last year. He's 24 years old.
25
He's a guy
now.
that was 25 now. Okay, so he was highly touted when the Jays originally picked him up in 2017. I wish nothing but the best for the guy. He could very well contribute to this Toronto Blue Jays team. There is a hole at third base. I just don't think after they gave him that opportunity in September that he is going to be their number one go-to guy. I don't think that they're going to hand the reins over to Kevin Smith. He could take the reins. They might make a trade that still allows for there to be a hole in the infield and allow for some growth from within the organization to take that step forward. Time will tell. But yeah, maybe they do trade him, and maybe that extra value he has now, being in a top 100 prospect, is appealing to somebody.
Yeah, I don't know where I land on Kevin Smith. He's just not sexy enough for me. Like, for the age that he's at, the team needs, like
The skill set he's showing.
the skill set he's shown. I just don't know where he would fit on this major league roster. Like, if he's our third baseman, I don't feel any better about that than Espinal and Biggio in a platoon system.
I agree.
Right? So, yeah, I guess I would say let's if we can sell high on him. For whatever that might mean. But Kevin Smith kind of just feels like a Rowdy Tellez equivalent. you know,
Where he
like,
has flashes and there is potential,
has
but
flashes and there's something there, but also like not really a spot for him, right? So I don't know. All right, let's
be interested to hear what all of you have to say. Feel free to drop
yeah,
a
absolutely.
comment about Kevin Smith, because Adam and I could be out to lunch on this. Who knows? And I actually hope we are. It would be great if by July Kevin Smith has come out of nowhere and is helping this team out in major ways, and we're both like, boy, were we ever wrong in February?
Do we ever look dumb? Sorry, I just want to quickly pull up his stats in Buffalo last year. So in 94 games, he had 19. Oh, no, where is this now? Fuck. Sorry, I'm so frustrated right
Hey,
now. I
your
just
microphone's on. It's perfect. You're good.
I had the line set up on baseballreference.com and I was reading it, and then an ad populated and it shifted everything down. And
right.
so, all right, bear with me here. Forget it. Kevin Smith, let's just move on. I'm so fucking frustrated right now. Oh my God, I could spit blood. All right, let's. Fucking holy shit. Oh, we're not getting monetized on this video. All right, let's move on to the next comment here, shall we? Sorry, Veracity, I really butchered it at the end there. So this one comes in from Discord as well. Drinker of Beer says, Jim Bowden of The Athletic wrote an article about what each team will do as soon as this lockout ends. For the Jays, it was trade Groshans, Otto Lopez, and Gunnar Hoagland for Jose Ramirez. Anybody else see this? And if this is actually what it takes to get J-Ram, do it yesterday, in my opinion. Thoughts?
I mean, Drinker of Beer is hitting it out of the park. Do you have any different opinion? I mean, if they can move Hoagland and Groshans and Otto Lopez for J-Ram, 2 years of control, you do that, right?
Yeah, I would do it as soon as I possibly could. I mean, hopefully, who was it? Jim Bowden of The Athletic is accurate about the price tag, because that feels like way less than I was expecting to pay.
It is sure interesting to see how many different opinions there are on the price tag for Jose Ramirez, eh? Mm-hmm. Because we have heard everything from Lourdes, Orelvis Martinez, Groshans, Lopez, Roberts, Van Eyck, right? Which would be just a ridiculously huge package, to something like Bowden just suggested here, where it's nobody off the regular roster. You're still keeping your highest end prospects in-house. Listen, if the Jays can wind up getting Jose Ramirez without giving up Orelvis Martinez, without giving up Gabriel Moreno, and without losing Lourdes Gurriel Jr.,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there's anyone I don't let go.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Jordan Groshans, I think, is. Are we still hopeful that he could transition to third successfully and join the team in that way? Like, if we don't get a Jose Ramirez, is that the path to Groshans contributing to this team, is as a third baseman, right?
And we've talked Groshans a little bit, but one thing that there stands out to me about the man is that every level that he has hit, he has struggled, and then he finds it and he excels. I mean, you look at last year in Double-A, and yes, if you take his numbers from May through beginning of July, it's not overall that impressive at all. But my goodness, like, he ended the season, the last 2.5 months of 2021, the kid was hitting 330. He was hitting for power. He was hitting more doubles. He looked really good at shortstop and quite good at third. Shortstop, of course, is natural position. Groshans could be that guy. However, when it comes down to Jordan Groshans, I truly believe he is a gentleman that needs a little bit more development. He's not a guy, he's 22 right now, but he's not a guy who's Vladdy or Bo, who is major league ready at such a young age. And the truth be told, he might not be 24 till he's ready. He may be 2 years behind yet, but they are going to start him at AAA, and they are going to see how he does if he's still in the organization. And if he is, we very well could see Kevin Smith given a shot at third base at the beginning of the season. And if it doesn't work out, we could see Groshans given a shot in May or June. Who knows?
Are you high on Groshans, or are you kind of, because he was a top 1 or 2 prospect in the organization last year.
Well, he's only 4 now. He's still fairly highly ranked. I am not low on Groshans. Let's put it that way. I'm not overly excited about him, but that said, his youth is something that all the fans for the Jays need to kind of keep in mind, right? Because 22 is still very young. And there are plenty of guys that start AAA at 22 that don't have near the ceiling or skill set of Jordan Groshans.
The Bowen Vlad has really skewed perception.
Everyone's perspective, right?
We've kind of just taken for granted how like exceptional that is, really.
I mean, Alejandro Kirk was called up at 21, and we were all like, "Of course he is."
It's about time.
About time.
Yeah, no, it's just Bo and Vladdy again. Last Sunday we talked about ESPN's list of top 100 baseball players of all time, and as kind of a offshoot of that list, they also released a piece of like who are the young stars playing today who are destined to be on that list, right? Like sort of let's look 20 years into the future, who's playing today who will look back and go, this is the 17th best player of all time, kind of an idea, right? And it was the Juan Sotos and the Fernando Tatis Juniors. They listed about 8 guys. 2 of them were Blue Jays. Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr. So like, I get goosebumps when you just kind of like realize, to put that in perspective, how bloody incredible these kids are. We're blessed.
It's almost a downfall to the fan base because now we start to view all of these guys in that lens, and that is just completely unfair. And you know what, though? One thing that, talking to Robert DiBernardo this morning, of course, he's the head of the mental performance department for the Blue Jays, is how much money and coaching and time goes into the mental side of the game these days that didn't happen even 5-10 years ago. And I think that's why we're seeing baseball skew so much younger, is that these players are imparted wisdom and given the coaching and the support that they need to develop as human beings and to be mentally ahead of the curve, which is what you would need to do to be playing Major League Baseball at 21. Right. Exciting times to be a ball fan.
Especially a Blue Jays fan.
Especially a Blue Jays fan, because, man, the youth of today's ball players is so exciting. Like, again, we kind of went over it, but, man, like Acuna Jr. and Soto and Tatis, like, these are all kids that aren't even 25 yet and are just the most exciting, fun dudes to watch in the league.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. All right. But yeah, if that's the price tag for Jose Ramirez, do it in a heartbeat, I think. Absolutely, right? Like you said, if we can not lose Orelvis Martinez, if we can not lose Gabriel Moreno, yeah, do it. If we can not lose Gurriel. Like, we just feel like at least one of those has to go, right?
I feel the same way.
Martinez,
I mean, one of those guys,
Moreno, or Gurriel. I don't see how that trade happens without at least one. If it does, wow. Well played by this Jays front office to absolutely ransack the Cleveland Guardians. So, all right, let's. This is our last one for the day. Shorter mailbag today, but that's what happens during a lockout. So, thanks to everybody for giving us some talking points, if nothing else. So this one comes in from Twitter. Bluebird or Bust said, I just saw that Trevor Bauer was found not guilty in California Are Dodgers still on the hook for his $45 million salary next year? And do they have to pay him? So, just one thing I do want to clarify, because I'm anal about details, is that he was not actually found to be not guilty. Charges were dropped. They did not pursue charges. So, that doesn't mean that he's not a piece of shit. It does not mean that he didn't do the things that he is alleged to have done. Maybe he didn't, maybe he did. The district attorney decided that it was not worth their time or money to go to trial, and they thought their chances of getting a conviction were low, is basically, I think, what that actually means. Not necessarily that they don't think he did it, but that they would not be able to
Get a conviction.
get a conviction. So he's still in trouble with the MLB. I mean, they're still going to go through their process too, and a suspension is still on the table regardless of this judicial decision.
The MLB does have their domestic violence policy, and it is up to Rob Manfred and the, I guess, governing body that's making these decisions for the MLB as to if he's going to be suspended or not. They need to find him guilty in their eyes. I think we've seen it several times before where they've handed out 80-game suspensions. I think they've even handed out 160. Now, if he is suspended, it is without pay. However, yeah, the Dodgers are on the hook for $45 million unless MLB steps in and suspends the guy. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Dodgers even play this. Do they wish Trevor Bauer to come back into that clubhouse in any sort of way? And I think that they're going to canvass the players. I think they're going to check in with all of the guys in the organization and ask, how do you feel about this? And I think that there's going to be a large contingency of that Dodgers team that wants nothing to do with Trevor Bauer and the energy and stuff that he would bring and the distraction that he would bring to the clubhouse, because it's going to be a media frenzy. Social media is going to be insane on this. So basically it's in MLB's hands at this point. Suspension is still on the table. We could see something crazy where they actually give him a 3-year suspension or something like that. But I don't trust MLB to do the right thing. They could just give him a slap on the wrist or not even suspend him too. So we need to wait and see. Collective bargaining agreement first.
Yeah, CBA first. All right, well, that is, I guess, it for the mailbag, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for your interaction over the last week. Truly appreciate it. You can get a hold of us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast, on TikTok, and you can drop a comment on YouTube. If you are listening, by the way, on the audio portion of this, thank you so much. Our numbers continue to rise on that end of things. You can, of course, find us wherever you get your podcast, and if you would hit subscribe, whether it's YouTube or audio, it's always greatly appreciated. We do have Long Toss coming up on Sunday. Again, I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, so you may catch this if you're a football fan on the pre-recorded side of things, but we will be going live, and we had lots of interaction last Sunday and continues to grow, so we're excited about that. The week after, the 20th, not get excited about the guests we have for this Super Bowl Sunday episode, but we do have Zach Logue of the 40-man roster with the Jays. It looks like Rob Wong, formerly of Sportsnet, is going to be joining us. We've got a few really fun guests on the horizon, so please tune in for that. Otherwise, we'll see you Friday. Cheers.
Cheers.